The storm hit New Haven like a living thing, all teeth and fury, driving sheets of rain against the colony's reinforced walls. Finn Torrance barely looked up from the plasma conduit he was repairing in his workshop when the proximity alarm screamed through the howling wind. 3 sharp blasts meant someone, or something, was approaching the main gate. He wiped grease from his hands and stepped into the storm, squinting through the downpour toward the cluster of prefab buildings that formed the heart of their remote outpost. Other colonists were already emerging, their faces grim in the emergency lighting. In a place like New Haven, unexpected visitors usually meant trouble. "Stay back!" Jonas Blackwood's voice cut through the storm as he approached the gate, rifle in hand. As colony administrator, Jonas had kept them alive through 5 years of raids, equipment failures, and the endless dangers of frontier life. Could be a trap. But Finn could see through the reinforced, transparent aluminum that it wasn't raiders at the gate. A lone figure knelt in the mud, swaying with exhaustion. Even through the storm's fury, he could make out the distinctive blue-tinted skin and the mass of rain-soaked red curls that marked her as Zeridian, one of humanity's enemies in the war that had ended 3 years ago. "It's just one of them," muttered Hayes, the colony's head of security. "Probably a scout. We should—" "She's hurt," Finn interrupted, stepping closer to the gate controls. The figure outside had collapsed completely now, her slight frame crumpled against the metal barrier. "Don't even think about it, Torrance," Jonas warned. "Zeridians are cunning. This could be—" "Look at her!" Finn gestured toward the fallen woman. "She's barely conscious. What kind of threat is she?" Through the gate's viewport, he could see her more clearly now. Her blue skin was pale, almost gray, and dark stains that might have been blood mixed with the mud on her simple clothing. Her red hair clung to her skull, and her eyes, large and golden like all Zeridians, were barely open, staring at nothing. "The war's over," Finn said quietly. "She's no soldier. She's just lost." "The war may be over, but the hatred isn't," Jonas replied. "Half the people here lost family to her kind. You want to explain to them why we're sheltering the enemy?" Thunder crashed overhead, and in the brief silence that followed, they all heard it, a sound so broken and desperate it made Finn's chest tighten. The Zeridian woman was trying to speak, her lips moving soundlessly against the gate. Finn activated the external audio pickup, and her voice came through the speakers, barely a whisper. "Please, I have no one left." The words hit him like a physical blow. In that moment, looking at her collapsed form, he didn't see an enemy alien. He saw someone who had lost everything, just as he had when he'd fled to this remote colony after his family died in the bombing of Europa Station. "I'm opening the gate," he announced, reaching for the controls. "Finn, don't—" Jonas grabbed his arm. "She's dying out there." Finn shook him off. "I won't have that on my conscience." "Then she's your responsibility," Jonas said coldly. "You take her in, you answer for whatever happens, and you keep her away from the main settlement." The gate cycled open with a pneumatic hiss. Finn stepped into the storm, the rain immediately soaking him to the skin. The Zeridian woman didn't move as he approached, her breathing shallow and labored. Up close, he could see the extent of her injuries: plasma burns on her arms, a gash across her forehead, and the telltale pallor of severe dehydration. "Hey," he said softly, kneeling beside her. "Can you hear me?" Her golden eyes focused on him with effort, and he saw something in them that made his decision feel right despite everything. Not cunning or deception, but profound, bone-deep exhaustion and grief. "I'm going to help you," he told her, sliding his arms under her slight frame. She weighed almost nothing, her body trembling with fever. "You're safe now." As he carried her toward his workshop, he could feel the eyes of his neighbors on him, their disapproval palpable even through the storm. But he didn't look back. Sometimes, he thought, being human meant choosing compassion over fear, even when everyone around you chose differently. In his arms, the Zeridian woman whispered something in her own language before losing consciousness. He didn't understand the words, but somehow he understood their meaning. "Thank you." Part 2. Bridges built in silence. The first 3 days, she barely spoke. Finn had set up a makeshift bed in the corner of his workshop, screened off by salvaged metal sheeting to give her privacy. The space smelled of engine oil and ozone, hardly ideal for recovery, but it was warm and dry, more than she'd had in whatever hell she'd escaped from. He learned her name on the second morning when she whispered it through cracked lips. Kira. Just that, nothing more. No family name, no title, no indication of what she'd been before the war stripped everything away. She was stronger than she looked. By the fourth day, Kira was sitting up, her golden eyes tracking his movements as he worked on various repairs. Her blue skin had regained some of its natural color, and he could see that her red curls, when clean and dry, caught the workshop's harsh lighting like spun copper. "You don't have to watch me," Finn said without looking up from the atmospheric processor he was rebuilding. "I'm not going anywhere. Your people want me gone." Her voice carried a melodic accent that made even harsh words sound musical. "Why do you help me?" Finn set down his plasma cutter and finally met her gaze. "Because you asked." She tilted her head, confused. "That is all?" "Sometimes that's enough." The honesty in his answer seemed to surprise her. For the first time since she'd arrived, something that might have been a smile ghosted across her lips. On the fifth day, she stood. Finn was calibrating a gravity generator when he heard her moving around behind the screen. He kept working, giving her space, until he realized the small sounds had stopped. "Kira?" He turned to find her standing beside his workbench, studying the disassembled components with obvious interest. "You should be resting." "This is 7th-generation Terran tech," she said, ignoring his concern. "But you've modified the resonance chamber." Finn blinked. "You know gravity systems?" "I was an engineer. Before." The last word carried weight, as if it encompassed everything she'd lost. "Your modification, it increases efficiency, but reduces safety margins. We don't have much choice. Parts are scarce out here." Kira nodded, then reached for a component, hesitated, and looked at him questioningly. When he gestured for her to continue, she picked up the piece and turned it in her hands. "If you adjust the harmonic frequency here and reinforce this junction," her fingers moved with practiced precision, making tiny adjustments. "It should hold." Finn watched, fascinated as she worked. Her movements were economical, confident, the hands of someone who understood machines at an intuitive level. When she finished, she stepped back and activated the diagnostic. The readings made him whistle low. 15% improvement in output, and the safety margins are actually better than standard. "Ziridian engineering principles," she said simply. "We learned to do more with less during the war." The mention of the conflict created a moment of awkward silence. Finn cleared his throat. "Want to help with the water recycler? It's been acting up all week." Something shifted in her expression. Surprise, then something that might have been relief. "You would trust me with your colony's water supply?" "I trust you," he said, and meant it. They worked together for the rest of the day, their initial awkwardness giving way to the easy rhythm of shared labor. Kira's knowledge of both Ziridian and human systems created elegant solutions to problems that had been plaguing the colony for months. More than that, Finn found himself enjoying her company. Her dry humor when a repair went wrong, her genuine curiosity about human engineering approaches, the way she unconsciously hummed while she worked. As evening approached, Finn heated ration packs on a small burner. They ate in comfortable silence until Kira spoke. "My people called your species the Builders," she said quietly. "We never understood why you spread across the galaxy so quickly, why you could make homes anywhere. Now I think I know." "Yeah? What's the secret?" "You don't just build with metal and composite, you build with kindness." She looked at him directly, her golden eyes serious. "I have been in many human settlements as a prisoner, as cargo. They were efficient, well-designed, but this place, it feels different." "How so?" "It feels like home." The word hung between them, carrying implications neither was quite ready to examine. Finn felt something stir in his chest. an attraction he'd been trying to ignore since she'd started smiling since he'd heard her laugh at his clumsy joke about plasma regulators. "Kira," he began, then stopped. What could he say? That despite everything, the war, the prejudice, the impossibility of their situation, he was falling for an alien woman he'd known for less than a week? As if reading his thoughts, she stood and moved closer. Her hand, slender and warm despite its blue tint, touched his cheek. "I know," she whispered. "I feel it too." But instead of leaning into the moment, she pulled away. "I should sleep. Tomorrow there will be more work." As she disappeared behind the screen, Finn sat alone with his racing heart and the growing certainty that his simple act of kindness was becoming something far more complicated and far more dangerous than he'd ever imagined. Outside, the colony slept, unaware that in a mechanic's workshop 2 hearts from different worlds were learning to beat in rhythm. 2 weeks had passed since Kira's arrival, and the whispers were getting louder. Finn noticed them in the mess hall during communal dinners, conversations that stopped when he approached, looks that followed him as he passed. Some colonists, openly, questioned Jonas about harboring the enemy, while others simply crossed to the other side of the path when they saw him coming. "You're making yourself an outcast," warned Elena Vasquez, the colony's doctor and one of Finn's few remaining friends. They stood outside the medical bay watching the morning shift change. "People are scared, Finn. They've lost too much to her kind." "She's not her kind," Finn replied. "She's Kira. She's helped us repair half the systems in this colony." "Repairs we wouldn't have needed if her people hadn't attacked our supply lines in the first place." Finn was about to respond when the alarm klaxons began wailing. Not the single tone of an approaching visitor, but the harsh triple blast that meant immediate danger. Both of them sprinted toward the command center, where Jonas was already coordinating. The response: "Raiders coming in fast from the south," he barked without preamble. 3 assault craft, probably Qatari pirates looking for salvage. All civilians to the shelters. Defensive positions, everyone else. Through the command center's windows, Finn could see the sleek shapes of the raider ships descending through the morning sky like metal vultures. Their weapons were already charging, the telltale blue glow of plasma cannons brightening along their hulls. "Where's Teacher Morgan?" Elena asked, scanning the tactical display. Jonas's face went pale. "School's still in session." The first plasma blast hit the colony's shield generators, sending sparks cascading from the power grid. The second took out the communication array. By the third, it was clear the raiders weren't just looking for salvage. They were here to destroy everything they couldn't steal. "I'm going for the kids," Finn announced, grabbing a pulse rifle from the weapons locker. "Too late," Jonas said grimly. "The school's on the far side of the settlement. You'll never make it through that barrage." But someone was already running across the open ground between buildings, moving with inhuman speed and grace. Kira's blue skin made her stand out against the brown earth like a beacon, her red hair streaming behind her as she dodged falling debris and energy blasts. "What the hell is she doing?" Hayes muttered. They watched in stunned silence as Kira reached the schoolhouse just as a raider touched down nearby. Armed figures in environmental suits poured out, weapons raised, advancing on the building where 15 children cowered with their teacher. Kira didn't hesitate. She vaulted through a window and emerged moments later carrying 7-year-old Mira Chen, the youngest student. But instead of running for safety, she went back again and again until all the children were clear of the building. The raiders had almost reached the school when Kira made her final trip. This time she didn't come out. "She's trapped," Finney said, his heart hammering against his ribs. Without thinking, he sprinted from the command center, ignoring Jonas's shouts behind him. He reached the school as the raiders breached the main entrance. Through the broken window, he could see Kira pressed against the far wall, shielding Teacher Morgan with her own body, as 3 armed figures advanced on them. Her hands were raised, but Finn could see the defiant set of her shoulders. One of the raiders raised his weapon, and Finn didn't think, he acted. His pulse rifle took the raider center mass, spinning him around. The other 2 turned toward the window, giving Kira the opening she needed. What happened next would be talked about in New Haven for years to come. Kira moved like liquid lightning, Her engineer's knowledge of leverage and force translated into devastating efficiency. The first raider went down with his own weapon turned against him. The second lasted slightly longer before joining his companion on the floor. By the time Finn climbed through the window, it was over. Kira knelt beside the unconscious teacher, checking her pulse with gentle fingers. Her blue skin was streaked with soot and blood, not all of it her own, but her golden eyes were steady. "Is she?" Finn began. "Alive. Unconscious. But alive." Kira's voice was calm, professional, but he could see the tremor in her hands now that the immediate danger had passed. Outside, the remaining raiders were retreating under heavy fire from the colony's defense grid. The attack was over, but its impact was just beginning. That evening, the colony gathered in the main hall for an emergency meeting. Finn sat in the back, Kira beside him, acutely aware of the looks they were receiving. But these were different from the hostile stares of recent weeks. Jonas stood at the front, his usually stern expression thoughtful. "Today we saw something that I think changed all of us. Kira Valen," he used her full name, which she'd finally shared during the debriefing, "risked her life to save our children. She asked for nothing in return, expected nothing. She simply saw people in danger and acted." He paused, looking directly at her. "I've been wrong about you. We all have. Today you proved that courage and compassion aren't limited by species or the color of one's skin." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. Elena stood up. "I'd like to officially invite Kira to work with our medical staff. Her knowledge of both human and Zeridian physiology could save lives." Others followed. Offers of friendship, invitations to dinner, genuine smiles where there had been only suspicion before. Mira's parents approached with tears in their eyes, embracing Kira with such gratitude that she nearly broke down herself. Later, as the crowd dispersed, Finn walked with Kira back to his workshop. The familiar space felt different now, less like a hiding place and more like a home. "You didn't have to do that," he said quietly. "Risk yourself for us." Kira stopped walking and turned to face him. In the dim light, her blue skin seemed to glow and her red curls framed her face like a crown of fire. "Yes, I did. These people, this place, it's become mine to protect." "And me?" The question escaped before he could stop it. "Am I yours, to protect too?" Instead of answering with words, she stepped closer, close enough that he could see the gold flecks in her eyes, close enough to feel the warmth radiating from her skin. When she kissed him, it was with a desperation born of nearly losing each other, a passion that had been building for weeks in stolen glances and accidental touches. "I was so afraid," she whispered against his lips. "When I saw you running toward the school, I thought I might lose you before I could tell you." "Tell me what?" "That I love you, Finn Torrance. Against all logic, against all the reasons it's impossible. I love you." He cupped her face in his hands, marveling at the softness of her skin, the way she leaned into his touch. "Then we're both fools," he said, "because I love you too." That night, they crossed the final bridge between friendship and something deeper. In the quiet sanctuary of his workshop, with the stars of an alien sky watching through the windows, they discovered that love needed no translation, that two hearts, no matter how different their origins, could beat as one. Spring came early to New Haven that year, painting the settlement in shades of green and gold that reminded Kira of her lost homeworld. 3 months had passed since the raider attack, and the transformation in how the colonists treated her was remarkable. Where once she'd faced suspicion and fear, now she found acceptance and even friendship. She'd moved out of Finn's workshop and into a small prefab unit of her own, a gesture toward propriety that fooled no one, since she spent most nights curled against Finn's chest anyway, listening to his heartbeat in the darkness and marveling that she'd found love in the most unlikely place. "The atmospheric processor is running at peak efficiency," she reported to Jonas during the weekly engineering meeting. Around the conference table, the other department heads nodded approvingly. Her integration into the colony's leadership had been gradual but complete. "I've also finished the modifications to the water recycling system. We should see a 20% improvement in output." Outstanding work. As always, Jonas replied. Elena, how are our medical supplies? As the meeting continued, Kira found herself studying the faces around her, humans who had once viewed her as an enemy but now trusted her with their lives and livelihoods. The irony wasn't lost on her. She'd found more acceptance among former enemies than she'd ever known among her own people, where her mixed heritage had always marked her as an outsider. After the meeting, she walked with Finn through the settlement's growing agricultural section. The colony was expanding, thriving in ways that would have seemed impossible when she'd first collapsed at their gates. Maya invited us to dinner tomorrow, Finn mentioned, referring to one of the teachers. She wants to introduce you to her sister when the next supply ship arrives. More matchmaking attempts? Kira laughed. I think half the colony has decided it's their personal mission to find partners for the single residents. Can you blame them? We're pretty good advertisement for the benefits of companionship. She stopped walking and turned to face him, struck by how naturally he included her in the future tense. Us. We. As if there had never been any question that they belonged together. Finn, do you ever wonder what we're doing? A human and a Ziridian on a frontier world where either of our governments would consider this relationship problematic? He took her hands in his calloused fingers intertwining with her slender blue ones. I used to wonder about a lot of things. Why my family died, why I ended up here, why I couldn't seem to find my place anywhere. He lifted, their joined hands to his lips, pressing a gentle kiss to her knuckles. I don't wonder anymore. Some things are just right, Kira. This, us, it's right. That evening, they attended the colony's monthly celebration in the main hall. It had become tradition since the raider attack, a way to reinforce their sense of community and shared purpose. Kira found herself in conversation with Sarah Okafor, the colony's newest arrival, and their first xenobiologist. I've been studying your people's agricultural techniques, Sarah was saying excitedly. The way Ziridians modify soil composition at the molecular level, it's revolutionary. Do you think you could show me? Of course, Kira replied. Though I should warn you, I was never much of a farmer. My expertise was always in engineering. That's even better. The intersection of engineering and biology, that's where the real breakthroughs happen. Finn appeared at Kira's elbow with 2 cups of the potent local brew the colonists had dubbed rocket fuel. You two look like you're plotting to take over the galaxy. Just the agricultural sector, Kira said with a grin. We'll start small. As the evening progressed, Kira found herself at the center of multiple conversations about engineering problems, about cultural differences between humans and Ziridians, about the best way to modify the colony's defense systems. It struck her that she wasn't just accepted here. She was valued, needed, integral to the community's success. Later, as they walked home under the alien stars, Finn was unusually quiet. What's on your mind? She asked. He stopped walking and pulled something from his pocket, a small device that gleamed in the moonlight. I've been working on this for weeks, he said, suddenly nervous. It's a translation matrix based on Ziridian and human neural patterns. But that's not why I made it. Kira took the device, turning it over in her hands. The craftsmanship was exquisite, clearly representing hours of painstaking work. Finn, it's beautiful, but I don't understand. On Ziridia, when someone wants to bond with another person, they exchange something that represents their essential nature, right? For humans, we have rings, but I wanted to give you something that meant more than just tradition. Her breath caught as understanding dawned. Finn, this device, it can bridge any language, any communication barrier. It represents what we've built together, Kira. 2 different peoples finding a way to understand each other completely. He took her hands again, his eyes intense in the starlight. I'm not asking you to marry me in some human ceremony that doesn't mean anything to you. I'm asking you to bond with me the way your people would, to be my partner, my equal, my chosen family. Tears blurred her vision. Tears of joy, of overwhelming love for this man who had seen past her alien appearance to her heart. Yes, she whispered. Yes, Finn. I choose you too. The kiss they shared under the stars was a promise, a beginning, a declaration that love could indeed conquer the vast distances between worlds. The next morning brought unexpected challenges. A priority transmission from the Colonial Authority carried news that made Jonas's face go grim during the emergency leadership meeting. Ziridian War Crimes Tribunal is being convened, he announced. They're looking for survivors, offering substantial bounties for information leading to arrests. Kira felt the blood drain from her face. They're hunting survivors? According to this, yes. Anyone who served in technical or command positions during the war. Jonas looked at her with sympathy and concern. Kira, your engineering background. I designed defensive systems, she said quietly. Shields, protective barriers. I never worked on weapons. Will that matter to a tribunal looking for scapegoats? Elena asked. The question hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Kira had found her place, her love, her home. But the past, it seemed, was not done with her yet. Finn reached for her hand under the table. Whatever comes, he said firmly, we face it together. Around the table, the other leaders nodded agreement. These people who had once wanted her gone were now prepared to stand with her against whatever storms might come. For the first time since the transmission arrived, Kira smiled. She had found more than love in New Haven. She had found a family worth fighting for. The ship appeared on New Haven's sensors 3 days later, sleek, military, and flying colors that made Jonas curse under his breath. The Galactic Enforcement Division didn't visit frontier colonies for social calls. 200 meters out, and holding position, Hayes reported from the scanner station. They're hailing us. Put them through, Jonas ordered, his jaw tight. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing a stern-faced woman in GED uniform. I am Commander Vex, Galactic Enforcement Division. We are here to collect the war criminal Kira Valen, who is currently harbored at your facility. Surrender her immediately and there will be no further consequences for your colony. Kira, standing beside Finn in the command center, felt her world tilt. She'd known this day might come, but the reality of it was more terrifying than any nightmare. Around her, the colonists she'd come to love as family were silent, their faces reflecting the impossible position they'd been placed in. Commander Vex, Jonas replied carefully. What exactly are the charges against Ms. Valen? Conspiracy to commit genocide, weapons development for hostile forces, and crimes against sentient beings. She was the chief designer of the orbital defense platforms that killed thousands of human civilians during the siege of Kepler Station. That's not true, Kira said, stepping forward. I designed shields, not weapons. I saved lives, not... The accused will remain silent, Vex snapped. We have extensive documentation of your involvement with the Ziridian military. Your surrender is not optional. Finn moved to stand beside Kira, his hand finding hers. And if we refuse? Vex's smile was cold. Then this colony will be declared in violation of galactic law, and we will take what we came for by force. I assure you, the collateral damage will be significant. The transmission ended, leaving the command center in stunned silence. Outside, they could see the GED ship's weapons powering up, a not-so-subtle reminder of the consequences of defiance. Well, Jonas said finally, I suppose that settles it. Kira's heart broke. She'd known this moment would come, had always known that her happiness was borrowed time. I'll go, she said quietly. I won't let them hurt you because of me. Like hell you will, Finn said fiercely. He's right, Jonas continued, as if Kira hadn't spoken. That settles our course of action. Hayes, activate the colony's defense grid. Elena, get all non-essential personnel to the shelters. Everyone else battle stations. Kira stared at him in shock. Jonas, you can't... They'll destroy the colony. Maybe, he admitted. But we've faced impossible odds before. The difference is now we have something worth fighting for. He looked directly at her. You're one of us, Kira. New Haven protects its own. The next hour passed in a blur of preparation. The colony's defenses, upgraded with Kira's modifications over the past months, came online with deadly efficiency. Volunteer fighters took positions throughout the settlement, their faces grim but determined. Finn refused to leave Kira's side as they worked to coordinate the defensive systems. "We can hold them off," he said, more to convince himself than, "The modifications you made to our shields will delay them, not stop them," Kira interrupted. "Finn, they have a military-grade assault ship. We have agricultural equipment and mining lasers." "We have something they don't," he replied, pulling her close. "We have everything to lose." The attack began at sunset, the GED ship's plasma cannons lighting up the sky like artificial lightning. New Haven's shields flared and held, but Kira could see the power fluctuations on her displays. They had minutes, not hours. "Their ventral shields are weaker," she called out, analyzing the attacking ship's configuration. "If we can coordinate the mining platforms—" "Already on it," Hayes replied from the targeting station. "Sarah's teams are repositioning now." Through the command center's windows, Kira could see colonists moving with practiced efficiency. Farmers and teachers and shopkeepers who had become soldiers in defense of their home. In defense of her. The battle raged for 20 minutes before the impossible happened. A coordinated strike from 3 modified mining platforms found the gap in the GED ship's defenses that Kira had identified. The military vessel, designed to intimidate colonial settlements, had never been meant to fight an enemy that understood its weaknesses so completely. Commander Vex appeared on the communication screen again, her previous arrogance replaced by barely controlled fury. "This is an act of war against the Galactic Authority." "No," Jonas replied calmly. "This is an act of justice. You came here with false charges, demanding we surrender an innocent woman to satisfy your tribunal's need. For convenient scapegoats, we declined. She is a war criminal. She is a citizen of New Haven," Jonas corrected, "and we protect our citizens." On the display, they could see the GED ship's engines powering up for retreat. Vex's final words were a promise. "This isn't over. The Authority will remember this. So will we," Jonas replied, and cut the transmission. Later that evening, as the colony celebrated their unlikely victory, Kira found herself on the observation deck with Finn, looking up at the stars that had once seemed so alien and now felt like home. "I can't believe they stood up to the GED for me," she said softly. "I'm nobody special, just an engineer who got caught up in a war I never wanted to fight." Finn turned her to face him, his eyes serious in the starlight. "You're wrong about that. You're not just anybody. You're the woman who saved our children, who made our home stronger, who taught us that being human isn't about what species you were born into. It's about the choices you make, the people you protect, the love you give." He pulled out the translation device he'd given her, now modified with additional components. "I finished it," he said, "but I realized something while I was working on it. We don't need a device to understand each other anymore. We never did." Kira took the device, marveling at its beauty and complexity, but more moved by what it represented. 2 people from different worlds who had found a way to speak the same language of love and sacrifice and home. "When I first arrived here," she said, "I told you I had no one left. I was wrong. I had you. I just didn't know it yet." "And now?" She smiled, rising on her toes to kiss him under the alien stars that no longer seemed foreign. "Now I have everything. A home, a family, a future." She paused, her golden eyes bright with unshed tears. "Now I have you." Below them, New Haven glowed with warm light, a beacon of hope on the frontier, a place where enemies could become family, where love could bridge any distance between worlds. It was home, in every sense of the word, and it was theirs to protect, together. In the distance, the stars wheeled in their ancient patterns, indifferent to the small dramas of mortal beings. But on one small world, in one small colony, 2 hearts that had found each other across the vast darkness of space beat, in perfect unison, a rhythm that would echo through whatever storms might come. The war was over. Love had won. The end.